What drives customer satisfaction in self-service customer experiences? We went in with the hypothesis that, okay, of course, issue resolution will come out as the number one driver. Turns out that hypothesis was wrong. And as a researcher, we love being wrong because it means that we've found something new and something super teachable.
Customer experience wisdom, a dash of travel talk. We've been cleared for takeoff.
The best meals are served outside and require a passport.
Welcome back to CX Passport. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Nicole Kyle, the co-founder and managing director of CMP Research, specializing in, well, the future of work. Her focus is on how emerging trends in work impact customer contact, sales, and customer experience leadership. With 11 years of experience as a future of work researcher, Nicole examines societal changes and their effects on the workplace. She appreciates the unique position of customer experience teams, understanding that, well, everyone is a customer, and recognizing the value CX teams bring to the broader business areas across an enterprise. Nicole's work supports executives in 4 critical areas: fostering employee engagement, adapting to shifts in customer preferences for self-service, handling essential operational management, and navigating technology and partnership decisions. Oh, and a little bonus for me anyway. As a Duke alum myself, I was delighted to find out that Nicole is a fellow Blue Devil. If only we'd known early enough, we could have done this during the tourney earlier in the year. So listeners and viewers, please forgive us if we accidentally dive into a little round ball talk. Nicole, welcome to CX Passport.
Thank you for having me, Rick. I'm so excited.
Let's get after this. One of the things that I love about the word research is how many times have you heard people say, many will say, I've researched it. When really what they mean, I Googled it for 5 minutes and watched 2 TikToks. You, however, have focused your career around real, authentic, honest to God research. Where on earth did that curiosity come from?
I think I've been curious all my life, first as a student and then as a journalist. I think that background in journalism, which I believe you share, if memory serves, really just crystallize the importance of curiosity and how you can use it as a vehicle for learning a lot about many different things. And research is just another side of that coin, really. So I have a lot of questions about the world and I want to find the answers. And that's what keeps me going. And frankly, the people who Google things and watch 2 TikToks, they keep me in business, because after a few times of doing that, you realize you need something else, a little bit more diligent of a framework or answer.
Oh, you can tell by my folks who are watching this, and hopefully listening, you may have heard that caused a real reaction. Oh, I did not expect you to say that. I love that. Hey, great. Y'all go out there and Google and watch TikToks and then come to me when you want to actually get some real information. No, Nicole, unfortunately, no, I don't have much of a journalism background, and I admire those of you that do, because the depth of that curiosity, that willingness to really chew on something important in a way that is beyond the average attention span of the American right now, which is 7 seconds, I think, and really getting into that depth. That curiosity, did it manifest itself even as a child? Were you the one that was always asking the questions in class? If you were the one asked a question, you'd be the one pivoting it back to the teacher or the students in the classroom. What did that look like for you growing up?
Yeah, a lot of high marks in class participation, I suppose. A lot of questions. It's really funny. I was definitely one of those kids who asked why, went through a big why phase, and it basically just never ended. It's kind of funny. We do a lot of root cause analysis in the type of research we do, and the crux of root cause analysis is just asking why 5 times. So it's kind of funny how those things come full circle. But yeah, it's always been a part of my life. And I think you, and maybe because it's the podcast, which I love your podcast, that's why I assume the journalism background. But you are interviewing and storytelling, and again, I think that's just another dimension to that prism. So yeah, that's how it manifested for me.
I like that, Nicole. I used to call the 5 whys the toddler approach, and now I think what we need to call it is the Nicole approach, because apparently you've carried the 5 whys forward throughout your entire life there. And I imagine it's probably challenging for you, a fellow podcaster, to be on the other end as well, being asked the questions rather than getting the chance to ask them. I've had others on the show that have that journalism background, And I think that journalism background lends itself to customer experience and working with customer experience teams. And I had mentioned in the introduction that you do like working with customer experience teams. That's where you focus. You could research, though, and focus on any area in business. What is it about experience teams that really draw your interest?
Experienced teams work with customers, which really means they work with people. And in any services business, I suppose you could argue any part of the business works with people. But I've always been so intrigued by the psychology of individuals, what prompts them to make different decisions, how we can influence their psychology or better understand individuals. And I think CX teams just do that the best. That's such a crux of the job. Other functions too, UX, sales, of course, it's all related. But I love working with CX teams and customer contact teams because everyone in the world has a customer, and so many of the innovations around how to work with customers come from these teams. So it's just such a rich area of, I think, really transferable knowledge. The last piece, the reason I really love kind of taking future of work research and making it fit for purpose for CX and customer contact is CX and customer contact, just as a corporate function, runs very differently when you think about call centers or when you think about the talent pool, when you think about the typical employee journey at an organization. So being able to write research that is tailored to that audience is an exciting challenge for me.
This is your captain speaking. I want to thank you for listening to CX Passport today. We've now reached our cruising altitude, so I'll turn that seatbelt sign off. While you're getting comfortable, hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Love it if you'd tell a friend about CX Passport, leave a review so others can discover the show as well. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Well, as one who's lived in this world, I can appreciate the challenge. Anytime you're researching humans, it's messy. And there's a challenge just in the research of that. You mentioned something that I want to pull at just a little bit more. And you talk about the psychology of this. And I think I just want to ask your opinion, just flat out. Do you think we focus on the human psychology element of customer experience enough? Or is that something that's overlooked and we could spend more time in that space?
I'm probably biased to say we could always spend more time in that space, but more honestly, I think it ebbs and flows, frankly, with the degree of cost pressure that we as CX functions or companies or customer contact functions are encountering in a given business cycle. When that cost pressure is a little bit less, we just observe as researchers more investments into customer journey mapping, more investments also into the psychology of our employees and employee experience and leadership development. And those two things go hand in hand, as the research shows. So when cost pressure is up the way it is right now, we have a lot of stats on that. Understandably, the executive conversation becomes more around efficiencies and process optimizations and deploying new tech. And probably a top pitfall around new tech or automation that we can identify is when we don't factor in the psychology of our customers into that either tech purchasing decision or that pilot, because the tech is only useful and you're only going to get good ROI if your customers actually adopt that journey. And the only way they'll adopt that journey is if it's fitting out a journey that maps to the way that their brain as a customer works or the way that their preferences are set up.
Okay. So that reminds me of something, and you and I came to know each other indirectly, but I had seen you on stage at CCW Austin, and then we were able to be connected through a mutual connection. But that's where I saw you, was there at CCW Austin, and you said something there from your research that caught my attention. And it was and you're speaking of customers, we as humans, we love self-service. We don't use self-service. I have a sense that it has something to do with what we were just talking about there, the psychology, but it surprised me when you said it. And so if customers say, and heck, even I say, I want self-service, but then I don't find myself using, why does that disconnect exist?
It comes back to the gap between preference and desire and then the experience being offered to you as a customer.
Okay.
And what we observe in the research is precisely to that point, about 75% of customers want more control over the way that they're served. They want to be self-sufficient in the customer journey. But when you look at self-service, for example, adoption rates, it's much, much lower than 74 or 75%. Right. And that's because that journey is painful. And at the end of the day, humans will optimize to what's easy and less painful, even if it's not their first choice. Just basic kind of hierarchy of needs and all that good stuff. Yeah. So that's why you're seeing that disconnect. And a lot of the executives we work with, heads of customer contact, heads of CX, they're really trying to fix that and improve the self-service offering such that it meets the incredible demand for it. And people actually pursue that customer experience, which is a benefit to the company, but a benefit to the customer as well.
Okay, so I get that, right? The reason I smiled earlier was, if it's not working for me, I intended to do this, but I mean, I'm one of the fastest to mash the letters A, G, E, and T in a chat, right? To get as quickly to a human as possible, or to scream it into the phone if I happen to be on the phone. I try not to scream, I apologize, but sometimes the bots just get me that way. But let's say that I am a company, and I'm wanting to grow those self-service options, and I want to do right by the customer in that vein that you're describing, so that the customer is getting their needs fulfilled. That it not only is it they're sort of directed to the self-service, but that they would purposely choose self-service and find a delightful experience inside of that self-service. What are some of the best use cases that you've seen so far? What are the stories that you've seen in your research where a company really got this right?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So and it was honestly kind of a root question for a large research initiative we did last year. One of the things we did in that initiative was a driver analysis of, from a quantitative perspective, what drives customer satisfaction in self-service customer experiences specifically. And we tested a number of different hypothetical drivers, issue resolution, data security, like feeling like data secure, basically, personalization, ease, and speed, and other things. And we went in with the hypothesis that, okay, of course, issue resolution will come out as the number one driver. Turns out that hypothesis was wrong. And as a researcher, we love being wrong because it means that we've found something new and something super teachable. And what we found was personalization is the number one driver, ease is the number two driver, speed is the number three driver, and issue resolution is the number four driver. And then you have a few ones after that. Yeah. So you've got a difference in prioritization when we put ourselves and really examine that customer psychology and that customer journey in self-service specifically. Once we started to press back on it a little bit, it started to make sense. Essentially what customers are doing and what their behavior shows and what they're saying in different preference data is having control over an experience means it's tailored to me, it's on my time frame, it's on my schedule, and it doesn't require a lot of effort from me. As you know, I did research around the customer effort score at the start of my career. So I've kind of always really admired that train of thought. And this research supports that even further. Basically saying a customer in a self-service journey, they want it to be on their terms, even if that means their issue isn't resolved right away. They want their own time input to be a matter of minutes, not a matter of waiting on the phone for an hour, even if that means their issue is resolved in 2 days. I had to put in 5 minutes of work, my issue is resolved in 2 days, as opposed to I'm on hold for an hour and my issue is resolved in an hour, right? So it goes back to that, again, psychology of people and what they're valuing and how they view success in a self-sufficient context.
Oh, Nicole, that's really, really cool. I never would have predicted that issue resolution was not the number one thing. When you say it, it makes sense because you're right. I'd rather sort of, if I know, look at me wagging the finger, but if I know it's going to be successful, you're right. I could drop 5 minutes and then know that it's going to be successful. I imagine that there's some difference as well into what the issue is and what that might be. If it's a travel related thing, then maybe there's a little different. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. But actually, because I said travel, I want to bring us into the first class lounge. It is time to take a little break here. Let's have a little bit of fun here. We'll move quickly, but we're going to have a little bit of fun here. What is a dream travel location from your past?
My favorite city in the world, which is London. I used to live there, and I love going back any chance I get.
Ooh, okay. Now I've talked to folks who are London natives, they're UK natives, and they've lived there. I'm going to ask you a little bit extra here, Nicole. See, I get to be the curious one now. What was it like being a non-native living in London? What was that experience like?
Moving there, from my perspective, I didn't know a lot of people moving there. It's easy to assume that because there's a shared language, the cultural assimilation will be easy, but it takes a while. And to the
Yeah.
Brits' credit, they're a little bit of an insular people. So it took me like 2 years to make friends at work who weren't other
Oh my.
expats, which is okay. And now they're friends for life, which is kind of cool. But it takes some time to adjust.
Okay, so invest a longer time, but you've got a depth and a richness of a relationship. So I can see why that would be a favorite place to go. I love London. I have only been a tourist there, never a resident. So I can imagine that experience was something special. What about going forward? What is a dream travel location you've not been to yet?
I would really like to go to Marrakesh.
Okay. I am intrigued by this. One, I'm intrigued by Marrakesh, but why there? Why you? Why is that your dream travel location?
Well, so I've never been, if I didn't say that, or I think that was in your question. Yeah,
Right.
I've never been. And I haven't been to that part of the world. I've been to Turkey and Istanbul, but that's it. I haven't been to Northern Africa. I think the food would be amazing. Every time I see pictures, I'm just so struck by the colors in the architecture.
Yeah.
So yeah, so much to see, I think.
The colors are, you're right. That's when I think of that area. It's an explosion of colors. What kind of comes to mind? That would be kind of special. Well, you mentioned food. What is a favorite thing of yours to eat?
Chocolate chip cookies, and I bake a mean chocolate chip cookie as well. So.
Why on earth do I do this podcast remotely? I could have said, hey, the price of admission is a tray of chocolate chip cookies. But if we ever find ourselves in the same place at the same time, I maybe say, let's try those cookies. Ooh, I'm a huge fan of the chocolate chip cookie. What about the other way, Nicole? Something that you were forced to eat growing up, but you hated as a kid.
Oh. Maybe like prunes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't heard prunes on this show before. Okay.
Yeah.
Forced to eat those.
Yeah. I did not like them, and I still don't like them.
Yeah, I can see why. Oh, I love the uniqueness of this, right? We're 170 episodes or whatever the number actually is, and I've not heard prunes yet. And I'm going to say I agree with you. That would have been an awful thing to be forced to eat. Well, Nicole, it's time for us to head back out into the real world, unfortunately. So we're going to exit the lounge here. But as we do, what is one travel item, not including your phone, not including your passport, you will not leave home without?
This is so potentially cringy, but my partner got me this little toy stuffed bear. It's very, very small, and its name is Albert, and I travel a lot for work, and I bring it on trips that my partner can't come on with me, and it's cute. You take a picture of the bear, and it's like, I'm not alone. It's so silly, but that's what I don't leave without.
Oh, I absolutely love that answer. I get serious ones. I get books. I love the emotional one. I love that. And I love you dropped it in there. You kind of snuck it in there that you take a picture. Look, here's it. Did you say, did the bear have a name?
Albert. Yes. Albert.
Albert. Yes. Mm-hmm. So take a picture of Albert. Oh, I love that. That actually is a really neat idea. Nicole, can we go back to what we were talking about before the first class lounge? And I even started to cheat and talk about it inside the lounge. But I do want to talk about, did your research show, because I'm still really surprised by the issue resolution. I do get it, but I started to allude to it might depend on the scenario of the reason for reaching out. So the one I mentioned is travel. I'm in the middle of a cancellation. I'm stranded in Fort Lauderdale, real example, and the digital solutions aren't working for me, and so I'm willing to be on hold. Did your research show anything like that it was sort of industry specific or any sort of other segmentation specific that you saw in the factors that would drive success inside of self-service?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right that for different types of contacts, if it's emergent, like the travel example you cited, or super high stakes, maybe high complexity, maybe something in healthcare, or even financial services sometimes, then issue resolution will creep to number one. Speed also kind of sticking as number two or three there.
Mm-hmm.
But what's most interesting is that it's those types of contacts where a customer is potentially less likely to self-serve. So then that kind of fell out of the analysis overall, because that driver analysis was exclusively to satisfaction in a self-service experience. Okay. I suppose there was like low representation of those types of super emergent contacts in that analysis, because those do tend to be the things where people want to speak to a person, whether on chat or on the phone.
You just proved what the difference between an actual researcher and a dude who just sits and thinks is.
Okay.
Of course, if I'm in the middle of a situation, I'm not choosing self-serve. I'm going after a non-self-serve solution, and that would not be what was researched. Ooh, I love that little microcosm happened, folks. This is what the difference is between being an authentic researcher or a TikTok researcher can be. Oh, I love that, Nicole. Let's go into another area that's really hot, right? AI is all we continue to talk about, and I know AI's got a wide definition. Heck, we've been doing AI for decades, but Gen AI and all that is certainly in the more newer. AI and that contact center seem to be one of that early adoption areas for a business. Now, I'm curious though, you talked about kind of the evolution of where the cost pressures are and org structure. How are you seeing that same input of cost pressures and org structure play into the decision-making around AI and the contact center? And specifically, I'm curious, are there any pitfalls that companies should really be paying attention to here?
Yeah, it's great questions. Certainly, to your point, customer contact is a area that's prime for automation because of the repeatability, the nature of a lot of the work, predictability to an extent, depending on kind of what channel or type of contact you're looking at. And to your point, that's the reason customer contact and CX have kind of been leaders in automation and AI across the business at most corporate organizations, maybe like finance as well, accounts receivable, things like that. The real tidal wave of enthusiasm around AI now, specifically around generative AI, is being fueled not just by the amazing innovations and frankly, like rather fast innovations and kind of cumulative innovations that have happened in the last 8 months or so, 9 months, maybe a year now, but also going back to that cost pressure piece. There's a real belief, it's about 60% of customer contact executives say that the introduction of generative AI tools will, in the long term, net a reduction in frontline customer contact workforce. So there's a real belief that that's going to help us find some of those cost savings. And I think that is true. What I'm super optimistic about, though, is long-term net job creation through AI tools and generative AI tools to an organization. That might not look like the same roles we have today. It might not be, we might not have as many agents, customer contact agents as we do now, but we might have as many jobs for the front line, because there's people who need to manage the data and clean the data, people who need to work on integrating different generative AI tools, training a generative AI tool that's specific to their organization. So I like to be optimistic on that. What else can I say about AI? About 51, maybe 52% of customer contact organizations are exploring doing a pilot with generative AI right now, which is, again, a testament to how quickly we're moving here. But I also like to remind people, AI has been around for a very long time. Spell check is AI. So this generative AI is just the next evolution of those tools. And a really interesting observation, and I think something that our industry is doing quite well, is more often than not piloting these generative AI tools with their own employees first. So whether that's an agent assist bot or a kind of interactive knowledge base for your agents, piloting that first, and then taking those learnings and working into the customer facing pilot before, so that you can roll something out to the customer with as little disruption as possible, or a better product than originally had. So I'd say that's a key to success, right? experiment on your own internal processes and employees first, learn
Right.
some things and go from there.
Yeah, the stories that are certainly dramatic headlines ones of I may not get the numbers right, but the dealership in Canada, I think it was, that ended up having to sell a vehicle for $10 because the bot suggested that, and then
Yeah.
I think there was a Canadian airline that had an issue there. So yeah, I can see the value of testing it internally. What about like a mentality of going in? If I'm a company that I'm thinking about adopting, because you actually surprised me. If I heard your number right, it was in the 50s that have started piloting.
Yes.
50%. I would have expected it to be higher. And I think that shows the difference between perhaps hype and reality. But in that sense of if only 50% have, so the ones that haven't, is there any sort of mentality that you'd say guard against this one or go in with this sort of appetite of this is how you can wisely extract the greatest value from AI as opposed to a fool's rush in approach to AI, Gen AI, and any of the technologies that are kind of vibrant right now?
Yeah, probably a recurrent caution I give to my clients on this is generative AI specifically is the shiniest of the shiny tools in the toolbox right
Mm-hmm.
now. Good old conversational AI and good old rules-based AI might be sufficient for your use case right now. Don't feel like you need to be a first mover on generative AI if a conversational or rules-based AI solution can work and fulfill your use case. Because and we have the customer data to prove this, a customer doesn't really know if they're interacting with generative or rules-based or conversational as long as they're getting the responses that they need, right? They
Right.
can't, and they don't care. They're not thinking, oh, if this company, because I think sometimes there's an overemphasis on, the reputational benefit to being like a first mover with some of these technologies. We need to show our
Right.
customers that we're super cool and hip. So we must have an interactive generative thing that looks like ChatGPT, which our customers use in their personal lives. You don't need that. You just need an automated solution to get people to their resolution in a personalized, easy, and fast way. So that's one word of caution, I suppose.
Yeah. I like that word of that's not one that I've heard a lot, not just inside of CX Passport, but just conversationally amongst our LinkedIn communities. I like that as sort of hey, you don't have to have the shiny tool because guess what? Your customer doesn't care, and designing your solution around what your customer cares about. And I think a lot of it goes back to the 4 principles that you described earlier as well of understanding what your customer cares about. You did mention, and I think we can close out in this space. I want to talk a little bit about employee experience because you did mention that while you see that there will be cost reduction because of the type of agent role that exists today, you think that there will be the same job or the same number of jobs in the future. I think in general, though, Gen AI and these technologies scare a lot of employees, and Gen AI and technologies excite a lot of employees. So from a research perspective, what has this shown you around employee experience and technology and in general overall for 2024 when it comes to employee experience?
One of the best links between the capability of specifically generative AI, but even other AI tools, and employee experience is our employees on the front line of customer contact and CX right now are more burnt out than they've ever been. The rates of dealing with frustrated customers who are swearing at you, using profanity or yelling at you over the phone, over chat, even, it's high, and for a lot of different reasons. So an automation solution, something that can take those contacts off the desk or just reduce contact volume overall so that you as the employee supporting live contacts have more energy to deal with that frustrated customer, that's a real win. So this is all to say, framing up these generative AI pilots as a tool to help reduce your frontline employees burnout is a really great way to get people excited about the tool. And also really teaching your frontline that the tool is, especially if you're running that pilot again on the employee side, is a resource for them, a way for them to do their job better and get to answers faster and feel more supported, especially in a world where direct managers, frontline supervisors, team leads are also super taxed and need a little help, supporting the team. So I think the tools when framed that way can be really beneficial to employee experience.
One, I love that, Nicole. Like I could stop down on that. I'm going to add an and to that. And I'm encouraged to hear that you're not the only voice saying that. And I think I'm grossly simplifying this, but it feels like over the last let's call it kind of that 3 to 4 month range, I feel like I'm hearing that message more. I'm hearing more of that message rather than just we get to save costs. It'll be more efficient. And that's good. Businesses are in it for profit, right? Except you're not for profit, of course, but for profit, there's a reason why you want to reduce costs. But this change towards, but agents, do you realize this is going to make your life better? Mm-hmm. We're going to reduce stress and all the things that you just said there, Nicole. I think that's it's an important message, and I'm glad to hear it more often and hear that coming out clear and clear. Let's end there. I kind of like on that happier, positive note. Nicole, if folks wanted to get to know a little bit more about you, the research that you do, the future of work research, CMP, anything along those lines, what's the best way for folks to learn more?
Head to cmpresearch.com. We run monthly free webinars for anyone who wants to register. So would love to see you at next month's webinar. You can find that on cmpresearch.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well, Nicole Kyle on LinkedIn. And maybe we'll see you at one of CMP's future Customer Contact Week events. Would love to see everyone in person.
That's awesome. And I can certainly vouch for it. It's a great place to meet faces and people that you had not known before. It was nice. Nicole, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this from the jokiness of, what real research is, right, as opposed to what a lot of folks think research is. That depth, that curiosity, that sense of that, all the way going into AI and then closing out with, okay, but how can we make this right for the employees, the humans that are creating the backbone of what a company actually is. This was a delight, and I came away learning something I know that the listeners and viewers have as well. Nicole, thank you for being on CX Passport.
Thank you for having me, and go Duke.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. If you like today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. Click subscribe on the CX Passport YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. Next, leave a comment below the video or a review in your favorite podcast app so others can find and enjoy CX Passport too. Then head over to cxpassport.com for show notes and resources that can help you create tangible business results by delivering great customer experience. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.